This is the fourth and final in the series of videos for the Vanderbilt Mellon Partners project describing how to create digital archives of images on Omeka. So where we're going to start here is with your cPanel. If you don't already have a cPanel, get in touch with the Vanderbilt Digital Humanities Center and they will set you up with one. Once you log into your cPanel for the first time, you should see a screen that looks something like this. And so what we're going to do is we're going to, under the application section right at the top, we're going to click on Omeka. We're going to go ahead and install this application. By and large, the default settings here should be fine. Note, however, that there's a couple of nifty things you can do here. Number one, if you want the directory, the actual URL where your Omeka website will be accessible to be different than the default one, you can manipulate a little bit here. However, this part at the beginning, this prefix, which will be your Omeka username followed by .digitalprojects.network, that will be there no matter what. If you want a cleaner URL, you'll just need to buy a domain and get the URL for your Omeka site that you describe here in cPanel to forward to, get that domain to forward to the URL that you describe here. So that's one thing that you can mess with a little bit here. I'm not going to. I'm just going to keep the default. And the other thing is to make sure that you set the administrator username, administrator password is something that you're going to remember. Or you can also just keep the defaults and note what is included here. But I'm actually going to go ahead and just use my regular Vanderbilt credentials so that I remember it. You can also set here what email you want communications related to the Omeka installation to go to. And finally, you can actually set the title of the website. So that's like what's going to appear when you open this up in a web browser, what's going to appear on the actual tab. Just name it Demo Omeka. So once you've got all those settings set up in a way that you're comfortable with, go ahead and click the Install button. It'll take a minute here. You can see it's actually working its way through the installation. Well, that was very quick, but in theory, while it's doing that, or once it's done that, one other piece that we're going to need is an Omeka plugin. I'm going to describe in this video how to download and install this plugin, and it's also described in the text guide. But if you want an even more in-depth and detailed guide describing how to install Omeka plugins, you can find that in the comments below as well, courtesy of Sarah Swans. The plugin that we need is Omeka, the CSV Import Plus. There is a basic Omeka plugin download site that's directly accessible through the Omeka website. I typed in Omega instead of Omeka, so let's try Omeka. That's this website right here. There's a lot of great plugins here. However, the one that we're actually going to grab, CSV Import Plus, is not on that website. Although you see the CSV Import plugin you can get on the Omeka website. The reason why we're getting CSV Import Plus is it gives a little bit of extra functionality that doesn't come in the default CSV Import plugin. But if you're used to CSV Import, that will work just fine for what we're going to do as well. So for this CSV Import Plus, we're actually going to get it on GitHub. This link is available in the guide. Once you follow this link, we're just going to click the clone or download repository button, click download zip. And so we'll have that as well. So we've got Omeka installed. We've got the plugin. Now we're going to go back to our cPanel, go back to the main page by clicking on this little 3x3 square icon here. And click over to File Manager in the Files section of cPanel. We need to go find the directory where we installed Omeka, which was here and here. And the plugins folder. So you'll see here there's a couple of plugins already in this folder. These are the ones that are included with Omeka by default. We are going to add the CSV Import Plus plugin that we just downloaded. So in order to do that, we're going to click the Upload button once we're in the right directory. Going to browse to where that zip is stored on our computer. Grab it. See it's uploaded. One important thing to note here is you can only upload files. You can't upload folders. That's why we kept the CSV Import Plus plugin folder zipped up. If you did unzip it, you'll need to go ahead and grab the zip again. That'll be the easiest way to do it rather than uploading the individual files. So we've got the zip. Now we're still in the file manager. We're going to select the zip. We're going to click the extract button. We do want it just to extract in the same directory that we're already in. So we're going to click OK. It's going to tell us that it did that. So you see here now we have the CSV Import Plus folder. One thing that we do need to do here, we need to actually rename this folder. It won't actually be visible to Omeka unless we just have the name of the plugin. So we're going to name the folder CSV Import Plus. And finally, we're going to delete the zip because we don't have it. We don't need it. We've already extracted what we need from the zip. So we've got the plugin now. Then the last thing that we're going to do in order to configure our Omeka instance before we actually open the Omeka instance up is in the application folder. So we're going to click into the application folder, then click into the config folder under application. And here, config.ini. Going to click on that. We're going to click edit and going to edit it. What we're going to do here is tell Omeka where to find PHP, which is a programming language that it needs to work properly. You don't have to memorize this path. It's again in the text guide, but this is the path that we need to tell Omeka to look for PHP in. And again, the variable that we're setting is background.php.path, and keep in quotes, it's /usr/local/bin/EA-PHP72. But again, if you don't remember that, you can find it in the text guide. Once we're done, we're going to click Save Changes. And then we are all set in terms of configuring Omeka. So the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to go back and look at the applications we've installed in cPanel. That's not the right button, the My Applications button. And you can see here where your Omeka installation is accessible. This first URL is the public-facing URL, and the second one is the administrative backend. That's where we're going to go now to set up the Omeka instance and ingest our items. So put in the right credentials. We'll be able to log in. You should see a page like this, which you may be familiar with if you have worked with Omeka before. So on this page, we need to do a couple of things. The first thing is we're going to install the CSV Import Plus plugin. Click on the plugins button right at this top toolbar. You should see CSV Import Plus. Click Install. Default settings here are fine, but it's already even installed. You can see here. You don't even have to save changes. The final thing that we're going to do to configure our Omeka instance is click on Settings again in the top toolbar. And right here where in this very last text box next to Image Magic Directory Path, we're again going to enter /usr/bin. And that just helps Omeka find another piece that it needs to do an import properly. This time we do need to click Save Changes, and we're all set. One other thing to note, if you do already have an Omeka installation somewhere else, there is a way to migrate that installation directly to a cPanel Omeka. If you need further help with that, again, you can get in touch with the Digital Humanities Center. You can also just Google Omeka API import, and there's some good instructions on how to do that, and that's just a separate plugin. But we're not going to do that since we're starting a fresh Omeka instance. So back to the Omeka page. Now we're going to go to our CSV Import Plus plugin. We're going to find the CSV that we made earlier that contains the metadata for our collection items. Here again, if you've just followed this guide exactly, all the default settings are fine. But if you've done anything differently, these fields here will let you build slightly different looking CSVs or slightly more complex CSVs. These fields here will allow you to ingest these new items into a specific collection on your Omeka site by default. They'll allow you to make them public by default, if not they're private, and things of that nature. So once you're happy with all of these settings, go ahead and hit next. On this page, we're going to map columns in our CSV to Dublin Core fields in Omeka. Again, if you use just the basic Dublin Core Google form, everything will map correctly by default, but if not, you'll need to map in a way that's specific to and makes sense for your project. Once you've done that, click the Import CSV File button, and you should see an Import Started screen. Unfortunately, this page doesn't reload automatically. You have to actually reload it to check the status of the import. But as you can see here, that import was pretty quick. And now we're just going to check and make sure that we got what we expected. So if we go back to items, we see our one item that we made. It's got the super basic metadata that we built for it, and the actual object that's associated with the image is this PDF that we made earlier. So while this end result may not be super impressive for just the one item, a good way to think about this is if we had literally, dozens or hundreds of items, the process would be the exact same. And this step and most of the steps that we've done during this workflow, you would only have to do once for a dozen or 100 or 1,000 individual items. The only things that you have to do for each item, obviously, are take the pictures and build the metadata. But, that in a nutshell is the workflow in its entirety. If you have any further questions, again, you can reach out to the Digital Humanities Center and we'll be glad to help. Many thanks for participating in this project, and we look forward to seeing what you're able to build. Thanks again.